Hey, welcome to episode number 36 with Josh Kelly. In this episode, we talk about how Josh helped his company grow from 6.5 million to 100 million in sales. And within that, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about marketing and sales. We talk about how you grow as a leader through that process, how you hire and retain good talent. And then we definitely spend some time on, reviews, marketing systems, and techniques that you can use at a smaller level, and then how you can expand that as you get larger. So I think you're going to get a ton out of this episode. So stay tuned with episode 36, Josh Kelly. All right, Josh, glad to have you on the show today.
Good to be here, man.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for today because you've been on quite the growth path with your company, and I think that could be really helpful for a lot of our audience and also inspiring. I don't know that everyone wants to do quite the level of growth that you've gone through, but I think there's a lot of lessons that we'll uncover along the way, so to speak. So I'm pretty excited for today.
Yeah, and with all fairness, it's not like I set out to have be part of a large company like that either. It just kind of just happened.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, sometimes
planned it.
No. Yeah. Well, let's kind of jump right in, and maybe you can just give us a little bit of the background, with Parker and Sons, and how did you get involved, and kind of what's the beginning of the story there.
Yeah. So my family, I come from a home service background. My family owns a company called Parker and Sons here in Phoenix. We're one of the largest HVAC plumbing companies in the United States, HVAC air conditioning and heating. Right? We grew our business. We bought the business 13 years ago. At the time, we're about $6.5 million business, which is a pretty large business. Last year, as in 2018, we ended up just around $100 million. So 13 years, 6.5 million to 100 million.
Yeah, that's monster growth for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, and I ran the marketing. I did a little operations, but I was mainly the marketing side. And then I've actually branched out now, and I have a software business that's also growing crazy and having a lot of success and changing a lot of businesses as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And you kind of referenced earlier that it wasn't necessarily a decision, but one of the questions I really had was were you guys sitting there at 6.5 going, we're going to 100 million, or, what was kind of the discussion going on at the time? How did this happen?
Yeah. A lot of people, there's a lot of people are in the big audacious goals. I'm actually not. I don't believe in big goals. Like if I want to lose 20 pounds, I don't know how to lose 20 pounds. I know how to lose a pound by tomorrow though, right?
Sure.
So like when the business first started, it's not like, you know what? In 10 years, we're going to be 100 million. It was more like, we're 6.5 million. Can we get to 7? And then when we got to 7, it's like, okay, can we get to 9? And it just started like going, we're small goals and small improvements, and you do that consistently. And all of a sudden, you look back, you're like, oh my God, how did we get to 100 million?
What happened?
How happened? We had like a big assessment last year because it's the first time we actually ever looked back. And it's like, what did we do? Because we've been sprinting so long, like we haven't had, we're living in the moment the whole time, right? Because it's just short of the wheels coming off kind of situation. A lot of those years, right?
Totally.
So
yeah.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, and I'm curious because you mentioned you're not a big believer in big goals, or it's kind of those little things consistently. So, but I'm curious too because you said, okay, we're at 6.5. Can we get to 7, and then 7 to 9? I'm sure at some point there, though, the little goals maybe get closer together, or because to get to that 100, you've still got to go through. You've just got to go through a lot of those. And is it churning through the little changes faster, or is it literally just picking off the little changes one at a time and getting through them?
It's kind of a little bit of both. It's more the secondary, but it's certainly both. Like here's what I mean by I'm not big into audacious goals. Of course, we set yearly goals. We're like everybody else, but we don't actually pay attention to yearly goals at all. It was literally 2/3 through the year. We're sitting there like we're doing really well right now. I wonder where we're going to end up. Holy crap, we're going to hit 100 million. We grew almost 20 million in 1 year, or we grew 20 million in 1 year. Wow. That was not planned. Like that was not the goal in any way. What we focus on is daily goals for revenue, for our average, for a bunch of KPIs, and I'm really focusing on being better at something every single day. And that could be something as simple as, answering the phone in 2 rings instead of 3, or something as complicated as, hey, we need to get 5 more cross sells every single day, where someone calls us for plumbing, you need to figure out how to also make them use this for AC, which can be more difficult too, right?
Sure, sure.
But yeah, so yeah, there are big goals that happen now, but they're really systematic of our daily goals.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think, the big goal is nice to have because you can kind of look out and get excited about it, but it's a daily grind and you got to go through those little things. So I'm kind
I
of
mean,
curious.
how do you grow $100 million company? Like, it's not feasible at 6.5 million, right? I mean, like, it's not. I have no idea how to do that, but I know how to make an extra $1,000, and that's kind of what we did, right?
Yeah,
Let's
just
make $1,000 more today, and
yeah.
then we just kept doing that, and eventually,
I like that. Yeah. And you said you guys just kind of did an assessment and a look back, just this last year. I guess taking that into consideration, but also reflecting back over the last 13 years or so, are there a few things that stick out to you where you said, yeah, those few things really made a big difference looking back on them?
yeah. I mean, so a lot of people ask, like, hey, what's the golden bullet, or like the
Yeah.
silver bullet? I guess, what can we do and just drastically change your business? And the answer is a lot of things.
Yeah.
But there's not one thing that's going to blow up your business. It's a combination of a lot of small things doing them really well, right? I will tell you the thing we focused on first, because we didn't have a big marketing budget. We couldn't do a lot of the things that we do now. What we really focused on is making the most of every single call that we were already getting. So that meant being more thorough, talking about more things, giving more options. It meant, you'd be surprised, it's $6.5 million business, right? How many people use us for plumbing and didn't even know we did AC?
It's
Um,
amazing, right? You're like, what?
it's so
How is this
frustrating. It's like,
possible? Yeah.
what are you talking about? It's still, I'm not, everywhere you see the word plumbing, AC is there too, right? But they don't catch that, right? So we had to get really good at cross selling,
Mm,
about locking down customers. We got really good at hiring and retaining the best talent,
mm,
which was a gigantic game changer because all your other issues slowly disappear,
totally.
right? And then we got really good at marketing once we had much of a budget. And we were a big fish in a small pond when we first started, right? We wouldn't buy things we couldn't own, which meant we couldn't buy a whole lot of things. We were buying a lot of really small ponds. But now we could buy, lakes, right? And still own them. But those 3 things are really the catalyst. And we can go into detail on any one of those or whatever you want. But it really is making the most money out of the customer you get, which is by far the easiest and best way. And then it was the talent, which is not easy to do, but the most important thing you could do above
Yeah.
all else. And then the marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I would like to drill into the kind of the hiring and retention piece because I know right now the, the talk across the country is like, we've got a labor problem. It's tough to find good people. Do you try to go, poach people that already have the experience or do you train them in house? And so maybe you can
Yes.
talk about your philosophy there. It sounds like that's the answer, but what did you guys do? And maybe what are just a few more tactical things that you
Yeah.
started to
Yeah.
implement to like, how do you keep those people? How do you make your culture one where people want to be there? There's growth paths for people. They're engaged in their work, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Culture is a complicated question because it depends on who you are and who's running and what you want to be. Every culture is different, but you certainly need to make it a fun place to work. And we'll go into detail a little bit, but let me focus first on like how you get good people,
Sure.
because that's what most people are really talking about. Is like, hey, I can't find good people, and the truth is, of course, you could find good people. It's not. It's more difficult than it used to be, but not significantly. You just can't be looking in the same places that you were before. I can't tell you how many times, I've talked to businesses and I've done consulting all over the U.S. And they'll say, if you solve one issue, what would it be, and what would that be for me for your business? And almost without fail, they all say, hey, I need to hire and retain the best people. Generally, they say hire, right? They're not really
Sure.
focused
Yeah.
on retain, which is a mistake too, right? I need to hire the best people, and then you sit down and say, okay, that's what's the most important in your business. What are you doing now for hiring? And they'll start breaking it down. And you're like, well, I put an ad on Monster and Career Builder, whatever. Okay, that took 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And what else? Well, I put something up in the parts house, and I talked to a recruiter. We decided not to do anything with it. You do all this stuff, and it adds up to like 45 minutes a week, right? And this is the most important thing they could do for their business, right? Um, the key, there's no secret. Now, there's tools that we'll talk about, but there's really no secret to recruiting and retaining. It's purely an effort of time and money. That's it. If you spend the time and get creative, you will hire good people. A lot of people don't spend the time, and I understand you can't spend 40 hours a week on it. That's unrealistic. But more than 45 minutes probably is, right?
Totally.
So you need to do things like that. And then really, you need to have a retention program. Most people won't have a way or a system to people retain. It's hard to find good people. Let's make sure they don't go somewhere else. You need to have systems to make everyone a recruiter. So creating sheets, templates, systems where every single one of your current team members are team members, right? Help you hire people or find great people, right? And empowering people, right? Setting those goals, talking about it, meeting about it, spending the time. There's really no substitute for time and effort.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, typically the things that are the hardest, there's no shortcut, right? It's just a lot of effort. And I'm kind of curious to learn a little bit more about what a few elements are inside your retention plan. You said most companies don't have one.
Correct.
Are there a few things you could share that are, you would put on that list? You mentioned talking about goals, but are there a couple of other things?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do that. Simple stuff like a lot of people have policies where they'll never hire anyone back. I don't believe that.
Interesting.
Here's the reason why. If they're a great tech, they're a great tech. People make mistakes, right? Certainly hire them back. In fact, we'll actually take the effort where if someone was great and they leave, we'll call them back and say, hey, I just want to let you know that we've been thinking about you. We really miss you here, right? You'd be surprised how many of those people wanted to come back, realize they made a mistake right away, but their pride won't let them call you.
Interesting.
Call them.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or we enacted something called like our 3 promises, right? So anytime someone's hired, period, Parker and Sons, generally it's going to be Paul, but it could be one of the other high-level managers here. But it's ideally Paul, who is the president of Parker and Sons. He's essentially going to sit you down, and we make 3 promises to every single team member. And it's going to sound weird, but it actually works. It's, hey, number 1, I promise if you're willing to put the effort and put in the work that we ask you to, I'm going to give you 3 promises. Promise number 1 is by the time you leave here, and you'll leave, everyone leaves. I hope it's for retirement, but everyone leaves at some point. I'm going to make you a better plumber, CSR, accountant, whatever. And that's understandable. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to spend more money on you than other people are going to. We're going to train you that more than others are. We're going to make the effort to make sure you are as successful business-wise as possible, right? Number 2, I promise you, we're actually going to make you a better person. Now you get the eye rolls there, right? A lot. What does that mean, right? Well, here's the truth. A lot of what we train is communication. It's about being a good person. It's about being likable. These are things that apply to your real life too, not just work. They'll help you be a better father, a better husband, a better wife, a better friend. So I promise you, by the time you leave here, you'll be a better person. And number 3, I promise you're going to leave a better financial position than you are now. And I can promise that because I'm going to give you more opportunity than other people can give you. I'm going to give you the ability not only to grow within the company, but to make a lot of money if you're working hard. So those are my 3 promises, right? Now, what that does is I've created expectations, not just for what I want from them, what to expect, what they should be expecting me, and it's their duty to follow up with me too, right? And guess what? If someone leaves, guess what 3 questions I'm asking them?
Yeah, go back to the promises, right?
Yeah, go back to promises, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes we'll go through it as like, are you a better technician? Oh yeah, I'm a much better technician. Do you feel like you're a better person? Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I feel like I'm a better person. Are you in a better financial position? Oh, absolutely. Then why are you leaving? And some people will change their mind right then and there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
super cool. Yeah, and that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I feel like that's super applicable to people. They can grasp that and say, yeah, this is something I can take and implement tomorrow, and start
Yeah.
working on that.
And that's like one of 25 things we do, right? But very few people set that expectation of what you could be doing and where you should be going at, right? And now here's also our duty to deliver on those three promises. We can't not deliver on those three promises.
Totally.
But that's a huge retention tool. You'd be surprised how effective that could be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I would imagine if as soon as you break a promise, then suddenly everything kind of crumbles. So you gotta be able to back it up across the board. Yeah,
Well, I mean, here's the key. My my employees are my customers. Period. My customers are my employees' customers. It's my job to make them satisfied, happy, love their life, love what they're doing, make them excited to be here every day. And if I'm not doing that, then no one's winning.
totally. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well, hey, shifting gears a little bit, I kind of
Yeah.
want to talk about leadership and kind of the growth that you and the other leaders in the company had to go through along this path as well. Because I think a lot of people get to a leadership position, whether that's CEO, president, or something else, VP of something, and you kind of feel like, okay, like I'm in this role now, I should know how to do everything, or if not, I can just tell people what to do because I've got the title. So I know that's not the case, but I'm kind of curious, just from your own experience, what kind of growth path did you go through personally, and were you guys active in thinking about that as well?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, here's the thing. Those same rules apply to me. I
Yeah,
spend a lot of money, time, and effort training and growing all the time. We try to focus on small goals in this situation too, right? Just be better. Every single employee has to set goals for daily improvements, right? You want to be better at something today than yesterday. There's been lots of situations I can tell you with my software business. I was not ready to run a software business. I didn't know anything about software, right?
yeah,
But it's going really well now. But there were a lot of growing pains with it, right? You always say yes, and then you figure it out. If you spend the time and effort, and you're willing to learn and not assume you know anything, uh, you could do it. But no, I don't think just because you have a title means you know what you're doing. In fact, I don't even really believe in titles. Um, I tell this people all the time. Like some people come and they'll ask, like from other companies, they'll ask, "Hey, this person wants to a raise in the title." I said, "Well, do you want to give them a raise?" That's debatable, right? A title, give them the title. Titles are free. Who cares?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Throw whatever name you want up there.
yeah, yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how that can. It's important to some people to have that, because their ego is tied to it, or they feel like that they're at the next level because
They're
of the
progressing.
title,
Yeah,
and yeah, they're progressing. But yeah, totally makes sense. So I guess I'm curious to, just kind of coming back to this growth path that you've been on. We talked about kind of the hiring and a little bit of leadership there. Let's talk systems a little bit. So I know, some things that you did at 6.5 million just don't work anymore when you're at 20 million or 40 million or 50 million. So I have a lot of questions around this, but I guess I'll just pick somewhere to start. Did you find yourself like breaking and rebuilding systems at certain intervals, or was it kind of a result of just this continuous incremental improvement? And I'm kind of just curious if you kind of like you hit this level and you're like, man, this just doesn't work. We got to totally break it and rebuild it.
yeah, yeah. To both, right? So we always had consistent updating, but the truth is that like 6.5 million SOPs weren't that important to us. Like we just didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when we got to a certain size, like, oh shit, we can't talk to every single
Uh-oh.
person individually anymore. We have to have a system for that, for videos and scripted out and everything, right? So there's lots of things we consistently changed because they were more obvious to us. And then there were lots of things where, it was working, it was working okay. All of a sudden, oh man, it doesn't even work slightly.
Yeah.
We need to sprint and fix this right now, right? We have this theory. Actually, I don't think it's a theory. I know it works, right? You want to know one amazing secret here? How to solve any problem?
Let's hear it. I'm always game for a secret.
So this is counterintuitive, and I hate meetings. Trust me, I hate meetings. But if you have a real problem, all you have to do is meet often enough and with the right people. So why I say that, like when recruiting retention became a real problem for us, what we did is we had daily meetings on it with a bunch of the management, right? You
Sure.
know how annoying it is to go into a meeting every day and fail? It's just you just naturally like everybody started like, I'm not going to that meeting without an idea. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it because I want to be done with these freaking meetings, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have to go to
So
another one today on the same thing.
yeah. Now they can't be just nothing. They have to be structured and quick.
Sure.
Makes sense. But yeah, if you meet on anything enough times, you'll fix it, right? So a lot of those
I like it.
structures that ended up breaking, we just started meeting on them.
I
And
like
it
it.
was not like some people have meetings to set meetings. That's not what we're talking about. It was a frustration point purposely. Like there were stand up meetings. We're in that room. No one wants to be in that room. All of us know we don't want to be in that room. It's like we got to come up with some creative because I'm not going to be here. I've been in this meeting for 2 weeks every single day for a half hour. I need to be done with this meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's otherwise it's the never ending meeting. We'll just keep showing up every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. But it's, to your point, it's with a purpose, right? You have a big problem, you go, we got to solve it. So we're just going to crack at it every day until finally, oh, here it is.
You're forcing time and effort. That's what you're
Yeah.
forcing. It's a
Yeah.
literal force of time and effort.
I like it. Yeah. Well, let's shift gears and talk about marketing a little bit. I know you said kind of at the beginning, you didn't have a lot of budget for marketing. I think you mentioned that you were kind of a big part of the marketing, I guess.
Hmm.
What did you start with initially, saying, okay, we're at 6.5, can we get to 7? So that thought process, and what did you go to? And then what did you kind of shift to as you got more budget and you got more size and you said, okay, now that we're here, we can actually, spend some money and put it in some places.
Yeah, so we're fairly creative with our marketing. We think differently, but we also think more granularly. So, like some companies, want to work with one person and buy everything through because it's easier. I could care less if it's one person or 1,000 people. I'll do whatever's most efficient. So, at one point, our cost per lead, cost per book call was right around $12. Industry average is like 80.
Wow.
Um, so we were doing really well.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
Now it's still very low. It's below 20, I think, right now. But what we really did that was different than anybody else is I really don't believe in buying something that you can't own in some way. And what I mean by own is be the strongest presence. And that you could do that creatively, you could do that with budget, you could do that with lots of different ways. But it meant when we were small, we couldn't buy broadcast TV
Sure.
because I couldn't have a voice. I couldn't be the dominant player. But what I could do is buy a really small radio station and be the only one because I was the only one willing to buy it. And maybe geographically owning neighborhoods, right? Let's make sure we hire techs in this neighborhood. Our trucks be there. We'll put billboards right outside there. We'll do a bunch of direct mail specifically this neighborhood. Make sure anyone in this neighborhood can't avoid us, right? And then as we started growing, those pools just got bigger and bigger. Now we're in broadcast. We're large enough now. We don't fear other marketing people because I could push them around.
Sure.
Like I don't care what median you're in. If I want to be in that median, I could outbuy you now. That wasn't the case before. We had to be much more. We were known by no means the biggest player in Phoenix. We were medium-sized player, right? And we had to think differently. Now we're still creative. We're still making sure our cost per lead's low. But I also know that if it's a really good fit for audience, that I can afford to be the biggest player as long as the numbers make sense, right?
Sure.
Um, so you just have to, for small and medium-sized companies, especially small, you just don't buy anything that if it's a small radio station and I know there's 2 other HVAC companies on there and I can't own at least a day part or a show or morning drive, everyone morning drives, then don't do it. Do something else.
I like that. Yeah. And I like the way you frame it too, because saying, hey, I want to dominate. I'm not big enough to dominate maybe where I ideally want to, but are there some targets? You mentioned the radio station, which I think is a creative idea. I really like that. But also the zip codes, like start with one neighborhood. Like where's your favorite neighborhood? Or, there's probably dozens that you would do well in and your target market is there. And, zip code isn't that, that big and you can really, be hitting that with your message over and over again versus like sprinkling some stuff all over the place. And
Oh yeah, that's what most people do, and they're not consistent, right? Too, right? You gotta understand a lot of forms of marketing take a while to really take strong effect. There's some direct marketing stuff, but the best forms of marketing are more long-term plays, right? And I can't tell you how many, especially in our industry, which is super super seasonal, for like HVAC. Everyone starts buying in April and stops in August. And by the way, it's barely started working in August, right?
right.
And I'm taking market share the whole rest of the year because I'm dominating because I'm the only one talking.
That's awesome. Yeah. And people are like, oh, it's time to market. Let's turn it on in April.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you've been there the
It's
whole
about to
time.
get hot, and it's like they've heard me for 6 months
Right.
the whole time, annoyingly, right?
Yeah. I like it. I like it. So let's shift a little bit to sales. We just talked
Yeah.
marketing and there's some cool stuff there. I guess I'm curious what your sales process looks like. And then also we can maybe talk a little bit about the cross-selling because you said that was one hurdle that you guys face. So I guess how much time did you spend on like documenting that sales process and then training people on that? And then maybe just give us like an overview of what that generally looks like, inquiry to close.
Oh yeah, I mean, sales forgives a lot, right? So we focused a lot on sales because we need a lot of forgiveness, right? But yeah, we document everything. We spend a ton of time, effort. Not, I mean, it's sales in a way, but on communicating effectively. So it's a subset of sales. Um, we're not really gimmicky, but we're really big on effective tools and effective speech and effective communication, right? Verbal and nonverbal. So we make a lot of effort to make sure the guys can present well, can talk to
Sure.
customers well, that we answer the phone well. So many companies don't spend time and money teaching your CSRs or people to answer the phone how to sell well, right? Those are huge profit centers. They affect everything else, and they can literally make sales their own. We do it all the time, millions of dollars. So we systematize a lot of that. Now we have a full house in-house trainer. We have ride-along programs where every single team member, even Paul and myself, do ride-alongs every period. Like we have strict parameters for that. But even from the beginning, this is something that we had to systematize because we wanted the experience to be similar with every customer because we're in a grudge business, right? What I mean by a grudge business is I have never met anyone in their entire life that woke up and was like, you know what, great today? Shiny pipes. You know, it's like no, that doesn't exist, right? It's
Yeah.
only when they're up. We only get calls when they're upset, when they're unhappy, something's wrong. We're walking in their house and they already don't like us. You have to have really strong systems in that situation because it's so easy to upset a customer because they're already upset.
Yeah.
Um, so we do a lot, and some of that is training for verbally. Some of it, a lot of it's just tons and tons of tools, so they can trip over it effectively, right? You know, it's I tell people this sometimes too. Like sometimes your best employees are the ones you just hired. Do you know why that is?
No, why?
Because they do everything you ask them to do because they want to impress you.
Yeah.
And then as you go, you start gravitating back to average, right? That every person does this. It's just human nature. You can't help yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It
Um,
starts to fade a little.
yeah, but you give them all the tools, and it's like, oh, why don't you do that anymore? It's like, you know what? Maybe I don't really think I need to anymore. I'm like, well, your closing percentage went down. Maybe you should do that again. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I like that. Yeah. And I like too how we've talked about sales, but you really focus on communication, which
correct.
I'm sure it's a lot about uncovering the problem, asking a lot of questions, listening,
Hmm.
repeating back and,
Presenting
stuff that,
options, being thorough.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and,
empathy.
and those things aren't super complicated, but I think, going back to some things you said in the past, it's about doing the little things and doing them consistently and just improving a little bit along the way.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely. I tell people this, in a football game, the team that wins the Super Bowl isn't the one who has the great special teams and the cool plays. It's the one that blocks and tackles well.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. And it seems that's what a lot of businesses is just doing all the little things that, to your point you just made, you should do them this way, but you start to cheat a little and you're like, oh, it's kind of a pain to do it that way. I'll just do it this way. And then you start to fade back and you realize that everything's back here now, and you're not operating where you should be. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's actually really refreshing to hear some of those things being said, because I think a lot of people, man, I want to grow, I want to, go to the moon, or whatever their goal is. Um, but it isn't necessarily that complicated or complex. There are layers that get added in at each stage, I'm sure. But if you just do those little things and do them right and over again, you basically beat out all the competitors that are fading back, and
Oh
letting that
yeah, yeah,
slide.
yeah. It's a constant battle too. Like it's just human nature. Like even us, we'll fade, and it's like, oh, focus, 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 fade, fade. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's a process that never ending, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's shift back to marketing, and I want to
Yeah,
talk about reviews, because I know that's part of what you're working on right now.
yeah.
But maybe talk about the power of reviews that you saw in growing from 6.5 to 100, but then also maybe some process around how did you go about getting those reviews consistently. We've seen, man, you send somebody a link, they're like, yeah, I'd love to leave your review, and then like months go by, you're like, wait, you were happy, you said yes, but there's no review. So maybe you can just talk about your experience with reviews in growing the business, and how you gathered those.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I focus on now. It's not just reviews, but social proof, right?
Mm,
So this is a problem we had in our own business, right? So Review Kangaroo, that's the name of my business, really came as an accident as a business. It was really just trying to solve our own issue, right? Which
sure.
is, hey, customers weren't happy to see us before we ever got there, before we ever did anything. It was pretty easy to get a bad review. It was really hard to get a good review, right? And
Yeah.
I know we do amazing service, right? So like, there's a disconnect here. We got to figure this out. And we were doing exactly what you were saying. We're like, let's send them a link, make it easy for them. Nothing.
Nope.
It did absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Can I log in for you and write it for you?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Nope, even then, because
Yeah,
you can't get text to do that either, right?
totally.
Anyway, so we create a lot of systems for it. We obviously have fully automated software now, where we not only send an email, but we send text messages. But we really changed the way we thought about reviews, and we forced the customers to change the way they thought about reviews. So as weird as this sounds, if you write a review for Parker and Sons, you don't write a review for Parker and Sons. You write a review for Joe the plumber at Parker and
Mm,
Sons, right? We make everything super personal. You're seeing their face. It's all about them. It changes the way they think about reviews a little bit, right? Because here's the truth. I don't care how well you answer the phone. I don't care how great your marketing is. I don't care how pretty your invoices are, or whatever it is. If they don't like Joe, they don't like the company.
totally.
Agreed? Yeah.
Agreed, for sure.
So you got to use that mentality to your advantage, right? So what we did is we started making it about the team member, and then we automated, right? So like, here's the beauty of our system, right? I can't tell you how many companies I've talked to, like, uh, you know, how do you get a lot of your business? It's like, oh, we're a referral driven business. Okay, perfect. How many referrals did you get last month?
Couple,
Five,
one, yeah.
five, two. It's like, they're not really asking for referrals, are you, right? So we have an automated system where not only ask for reviews, but cross sells, ask for referrals, all making it super easy for the customer, generating revenue, right? Making sure those things that you wanted to happen in the house always happen, right? And then we actually screen reviews too. So we literally ask one qualification question. How is your service from 1 to 5 stars? Based off that answer, we do one of two things. If it was an amazing 5-star review, automatically drive them out to third-party sites, to Google, to Yelp, to Facebook, to BBB, to whatever is relevant to that business, right? If they have poor experience, we instead collect that customer's information and send a direct email to the management team. So we keep it in-house. Make sure anytime we make a mistake, that company has a chance to fix it instead of becoming permanent, right? And there's some really cool benefits to that too, right? So we talked about hiring retention. You know what techs look at when they want to find a good company? Reviews. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Do you want to make you want to make your team members personally responsible for customer service? You know how you do that? You make a review on them.
Yeah.
I'm essentially doing a ride along on every single call because they know that no matter what happens, I'm asking for a review and I get a really high percentage of response rates. If they screw up, I hear about
Yeah.
it. They do an amazing job, I hear about it, right? And then we share it publicly. We base our training off this. Like, there's also all kinds of amazing advantages when you start making it about a person which you could do with or without our system. It's obviously far easier and far more successful with the system, right? Because we spend a lot of time, money, effort, and testing to make sure it's good, right? But these are things. Here's the key, guys. So many people don't even ask for reviews. Everyone needs to be asking for reviews right now. Referrals used to be done over your fence to your neighbor, your friends, your family. As sad as it sounds, I'm probably like a lot of you. I don't know about you, but I literally pull up to my house. My garage door goes up. I pull in. The garage door goes behind me. I don't even really know my neighbors. That's so bad.
Yeah, I know one or two of them, but I should know 10 or 15 of them. So
I used to know your whole neighborhood. I
yeah,
don't even know their names. I don't. It's so bad.
I know it's terrible, but it's reality. And so from a business standpoint, to your point, reviews are online, you know?
Yeah, that's what people, it's 88% of people look at reviews before making a major purchase decision, which is anything over $100,
Yeah,
which is probably everybody listening to this podcast.
totally. Yeah. And I'm kind of curious about, I think one of the key insights in what you just relayed was writing the review for the person, you know, the human connection. And so I'm curious, and if you don't know specific numbers, but what sort of jump in just response rate, whether it was good, bad, indifferent, did you see when you switched?
8 times.
8 times?
8 times more likely.
Wow.
We're 8 times more likely to get a review. Just to give you reference, we get up to a 15% response rate. So most people are getting like one review every 500 or 1,000 calls. We get 15 out of 100, more or less.
That's awesome. Yeah. But even that goes to show you, you're still not going to get like everybody.
Yeah. We're still not getting 90%. Yeah. I would love to.
Yeah, totally.
I haven't figured that one out yet either.
No.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. I didn't think it was going to be a $100 million business either. So we'll figure this out. Give me time.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Yeah. But I think that alone is kind of encouraging, because I think a lot of people, they send it out there and they're like, man, I did all that work and I got one review or two or none or whatever. But you know, you had to submit 100 to get 15, and most people are less than that, you know, so.
Most people are getting like a 0.1%. Even if you're using a system, most people are getting less than 1%. If you're not using a system, I mean, I've seen big businesses that have like 5 reviews.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's not good, right? Because the only people who are writing reviews that are upset people, because no one writes positive reviews unsolicited. You know what I mean?
Typically not. Yeah. The negative ones, you get those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, Josh, where can people get connected with you, you know, find a little bit more about you online, that sort of thing?
Yeah, you can check out our website, reviewkangaroo.com. It's REVU, kangaroo. It's spelled weird. I tell these people all the time, like, you'd be surprised how hard it is to find a URL with the word review in it that someone's sitting on and not trying to charge $100,000 for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's REVU kangaroo. You always call into our office here too. I'm a little old fashioned. I still like phone calls. So it's 602-456-8832. And we can help you guys not only get reviews for referrals and help you grow your business. Our average client grows 15% revenue, additional revenues the first 6 months of the program, some much higher.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. And yeah, I would definitely recommend, you know, reaching out or giving you a call. And yeah, I guess before we wrap for today, one last question for you. You know, for everyone listening, we kind of talked about growth. You know, I think that's the general topic. Most people are looking to grow. You know, what would be your one piece of advice that you would give our listeners that are looking to grow their business?
So I get asked this a lot too, right? So to me, everything's about execution. Ideas are cheap. It's about executing. It's the ones that execute fast and execute consistently that win, right? But that doesn't really mean anything, right? Of course, everyone knows, oh yeah, I should execute. So my suggestion is to simplify. I don't do complicated things. Like, we don't have a complicated pay structure for our techs. We pay a flat percentage on everything. We don't make exceptions. We don't, in this rare situation that happens this way, always the same. Because then they know how much money they make on every single call. When they understand the process, they buy in. What are the odds, right?
Yeah.
We do that with everything. So simplification is executable. So simplify. If you can't explain a program in less than a minute, you shouldn't be doing it that way.
I like it. Yeah, that's great advice. And again, I think it's refreshing too, because everyone's kind of looking for some magic answer or just something that maybe was super complicated. And they're like, oh, I didn't know about this complex thing, but it makes it more attainable and achievable. And you go, okay, like, this is something we can all do. We can simplify, we can execute daily, consistently. So Yeah, I appreciate that. And Josh, yeah, thanks for spending some time with me today. I think this was super valuable for everybody.
I hope so. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. I appreciate you obviously having me on, and I hope it was helpful.
Cool. Yeah, I think it was. Well, thanks a lot, Josh. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Josh Kelly. There was a ton of information in there, so I'm going to break it down into a few action items, although there were probably a dozen in there. But let's go over those. So first thing to do would be to look at your big goals. So whether you set annual goals or maybe you have a 3 or 5 year plan, break those down into daily goals. What can you do daily and consistently to drive those results? And then just hammer those every day and don't miss. If you do miss, just get right back on track. And I really thought that point was a good one. So that's action item number 1. Action item number 2 is to think of maybe 3 to 5 things that you can add to your employee retention program. There are several good ideas from the show today, but maybe think about some things that you've been thinking about. And then again, break those down into item number 1, which is what can you do daily or even weekly that will get you closer to those goals. Third item on that list would be start asking for reviews consistently. But I thought the big takeaway there was ask for the review for the person that actually worked with your customer. And maybe there were a couple of people, but people will want to connect and reward those people that served your customer well. And so bring in that human connection by tying in the review there. So those were the 3 action items that I have for you from today's show. And 2 more things before we wrap for today. If you got any value out of today's episode, we'd really appreciate a review. And again, in the spirit of today's episode, if you want to leave a review for me as the host or a review for Josh as the guest, we'd really appreciate it. It helps spread the word. And if you have any ideas, questions, topics, or speakers you'd like to see on a future episode, go ahead and shoot me an email at hello@builderfunnel.com. I read every response and I'd love to hear from you. So stay tuned and see you next time on Builder Funnel Radio.